My name is Rolando, and I want to talk to you about protecting your comic books. Everything from how to protect them, what to protect them with, and what to avoid. Now, comic books have been around for a very long time, a great pastime for children and adults the world over. Introducing heroes like Spider Man, Superman, and Batman. To generations, comics have beautifully married illustrious artwork and captivating storylines. Um, and for as long as comic books have been around, there have been people that have collected them. Some collect books for their value, and others collect them for the art and storylines. All in all, those who collect comic books seek out ways to protect these comic books and keep them in the condition in which they were acquired. When you go out seeking comic books and find yourself rummaging through boxes and boxes of comics at your local comic shop, you quickly realize something. For the most part, every comic in the store is neatly packed in a bag with a backing board. One can make the assumption that they are put that way to make them look neat for the consumer, but in reality, they are there to protect the book. First and foremost, there's a bag in which most comics are held. Most bags are specially made with comic books in mind. They are made to protect the comic from dirt and moisture, among other things, that can ruin a comic over time. They also keep away oxygen, which can cause the book to deteriorate at a faster rate if not protected by a bag. Earlier comics, as well as some printed now, are printed on a newspaper type of paper. The ink used in combination with the paper itself can have certain chemical reactions that can ruin the book and overall appearance. The backing board, usually used with the bag, are specially treated to prevent this damaging reaction from happening. After placing your comics in a protective bag and board, storage is the next key when protecting your comics. Here's a picture of someone or something someone would avoid when storing comics. Stacking comics on top of each other like this can damage the comic book. The spine roll. This is what happens when you stack your comics on top of each other. The weight of the comics bends those underneath, rolling the spine. This can lead to pressure cracks and tears along the spine of the comics until it renders the book completely unreadable. To avoid spine roll, you must support your comics and store them properly. The best way to store them is to store them upright in the specifically made comic boxes. These comic boxes, like the bag and boards, are acid-free, which help keep their comics in their present condition. They're also made to the dimensions of the comic so they fit neatly with the lid on. Once your comics are placed neatly in their bag or in their box, bagged and boarded, you must find a nice place to put them. An ideal place is inside a nice dark closet, away from light and moisture. Also, you should try to make sure that the temperature in the room doesn't fluctuate much, as that can speed up the deterioration of the comic books. Water is definitely not a friend to comic books. The moisture in the air of a bathroom can lead to water damage, like that shown in the picture. The water damage greatly reduces the value of any comic book, and can sometimes ruin the book completely by blurring ink in the pages that will prevent reading the book, and of course enjoying it. Another thing to avoid around comics is smoking. Smoke has a bad way of sneaking into the boxes and bags in which your comics are stored, and ruining them. The smoke will yellow the pages and embed its odor into the pages, making them reek of cigarettes, ruining any value they hold, and making them quite unpleasant to read. A commonly missed problem is dirty hands. Dirty hands can also ruin comics. They can cause a problem, especially when thinking about the value side of comics. A professional grader can see the smudges on the comic or dirty fingerprints on the pages, and deduct from the overall score of this comic. The most dangerous of all elements to comics is, of course, fire. Heat of any kind, really. Comics are made of paper. Paper is, in fact, highly flammable. The last thing one would need when collecting comics is finding your collection in ashes. So make sure you keep your boxes from an open flame. Also, try to keep your boxes or your comics in a cool portion of the house, avoiding warping and any other damaging side effects. We've touched on how to protect them and what to avoid, but with the many different protective products out there, what should we buy? It may be the overwhelming when you think about the different brands and prices when it comes to bags and boards, but in reality, it's quite simple. You should always feel free to ask your local comic retailer. Ask him what he uses and see if that works for you. When I go into my local comic shop and buy a new book right off the rack, I always ask for a bag and board with my new purchase. At about 25 cents for the bag and board together, it's a bargain that'll keep my comics fresh for years to come. Sometimes it's easier to buy your bags and boards in bulk. When purchasing comic book bags, it's always a good idea to invest into something acid-free and that's made out of mylar. I prefer something a little thicker than your normal bag, like a 2mm, because it stays nice and crisp for longer. Makes the comic book you're protecting shine like a gem. When it comes to boards, there's really no reason to get picky. All boards are basically the same unless they are coated on both sides. Those that are coated on both sides are usually a little more expensive, and in my opinion, really not worth it. Any acid-free board will do just fine when paired up with a nice mylar bag. When you purchase a comic book storage box, make sure to find one that fits your comics. Older comics are much wider than the ones being printed now, so please keep that in mind when buying a storage box. Bags and boards for your comics. Also make sure that you do not overstuff the box, as pressure that you put on the comics may cause problems when you try to go back and read something that you've already put away. To close, comics are a wonderful pastime and an investment to keep your comics down and pass them down to your family and friends. In order to ensure you keep the value of your books, make sure you care for them. But all in all, make sure you read and enjoy them. Thank you.